Hello! Welcome to Give Pause Hobby, a channel where I stop to appreciate the things I love to fill my free time with. It's been a minute. I'm recording this in the tail end of the Give Pause, and it's been a super successful concert week at school, where I'm a middle school band director. Have a couple performances myself at this time of year, and yeah, things have been going great. I'm happy to be back in front of the camera. I've been thinking about this video and the couple others that are coming down the line. And I just wanted to, before I got into the meat and potatoes of what you clicked on, my Hall of Fame choices for 2023, I just wanted to talk about what Give Pause Hobby I think is going to look like as we go into 2024. So I've been holding pretty strong on a once a week posting schedule ever since I think the start of last school year. So sorry for those of you who aren't students or teachers, my year kind of revolves around the school. So calendar year be damned. And sometimes it's a little bit down. Sometimes it's a little bit up if there's something that's really got me going and excited. But by and large, aside from last December's Give Pause, it's been once a week posting. And, we added a pretty sizable, pretty exciting new video series with a sizable viewership. There it is. In so far as Old Lady Kate Reacts, where my wife and I watch music that I love now and or earlier in life that she's never really heard of before. And yeah, that was a huge success and super fun. We haven't done 9 of them just because it's been successful. Done 9 of them because we were having a blast with it. So there's been a little bit more than the typical fare that I've had on this channel before. And I've been super excited for the first half of the school year, but I have some other things coming up after we get back from winter break. In my other underneath my other hat of being in the Army National Guard as a bandsman, that's going to, I think, be pulling my attention a little bit. And I think there's going to be, at least for this school year, so again, going back to that, so from January up through May, we'll see, into the summer months, I'm not sure, but I think I'm going to go down to every 2 weeks, and there may be something that, a video just kind of churns up a little faster, and then that'll be a bonus one, either in the second or fourth Thursday of that month, because the first and third are going to be our regular ones. I think the first is going to be something like core Give Pause Hobby, like this, like Game Teaches, like whatever. And then the third is going to be another Old Lady Kate Reacts. I'm not going to promise that series is going to go on forever and ever and ever, but I will promise it will definitely go well into the double digits, because our next one is 10. And so I think that's going to allow me to really, not only achieve what I need to outside of this channel, but make sure that what I'm putting out is the highest quality, that I'm not just trying to crank something out just to get something up on the channel. So I know, in my heart of hearts, there are very few of you who are setting your clocks and your schedules off of our release schedule here at Give Pause. So this public service announcement is probably not really all that important. That said, I'm just putting it out there for those who are paying attention. So just before we can get to the real video, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. And we'll be back. This will be, if you're watching this is after the new year. And so we'll be back up and running, but just twice a month instead of 4 or more times a month, which we were before. So without any further ado, let's get to it. So we have our, just like last year, well, I released it over in the summer, and then, a few weeks before that, I had all the catch-up years of the years that I had, from the start of BGStats up through 2021, because then I did 2022 as the first single year release, and then I did the pre-BGStats years, going back to I think it was pre-2012. So it's been super fun to be able to take a look back at games that have meant so much to me. And just to recap, I'm putting the videos up here in the corner. So I first put it out in the way back machine, the pre-BGStats years, that I've always balked at the idea of a top 10 list for the year, because it's hard for my brain, the way my brain works, to understand what constitutes, achievement, what deserves to be on that list if it is made up of new games that absolutely pushed everything aside on the table and I couldn't stop playing. Obviously, that should be something on a top 10 list. But if you have games that you used to love and you're returning to and just enjoying being back, but maybe it's not absolutely taking over your game nights, or games that are new to you or old to you, whatever it may be, that are kind of just starting to take hold. And once something is in the past, if it's something that you continue to play, in my case, Root, game that I just will always be up for a game of, how does that play into your top 10? If you're being honest, I guess maybe the unspoken subtext is that people just assume if there's a game that regularly sees play, then it just gets left off of their top 10. But to me, that just always, I don't know, I maybe that's just a me problem, but it's always just rubbed me the wrong way, that I would have to be kind of sweeping something under the rug in order to showcase something else. And if something, deserved to be there, that it, had to poke through all these other things and get to this level. It's not even like I'm playing that many games, because, two small kids take up a lot of my time and are wonderful. But I just found that there was a better model out there, I thought. And even though I don't have the sports ball gene, played lots of sports, but I cannot for the life of me stand to watch them and follow them for a season or more. And baseball is probably the least of the sports that I'm interested in, but that's where it first came to mind, because that's where it's most prominent, at least to me, is the Hall of Fame model. So people are, players are inducted into the Hall of Fame. I suppose rock and roll, I could have used that as an example too. But any sort of Hall of Fame model, which is to say, it's not necessarily something that needed to be bleeding edge. You're not giving a Hall of Fame to the rookie of the year or a brand new rock band as soon as they come out. You're giving it to someone who has shown their track record for being good at whatever it is, whatever, domain they're in. And it can be way after they've even been in their prime. People are inducted into the Hall of Fame well after they stop being rock and roll, active performers or active players in a sport. And I just thought I think that's a really cool concept. And so I took that idea of people kind of being put to this status, because that's the other thing. Once they're there, they're in the Hall of Fame. I suppose someone could be doubly inducted in the Hall of Fame if you really wanted to drive home how important they are to the industry, whatever industry that may be. But once they're there, they're there. You don't need to worry about, and again, it could be a me problem, but that placates the part of my brain that's but what about the games that keep coming back? In that case, there they are on the list, problem solved. So each year, this is a games that they're not necessarily brand new games. They're not necessarily the games that I've played the most. But they are games that the primary deciding factor is these are games that left the biggest impact on me over this calendar year, not school year, calendar year. So over 2023, I've been thinking about this for a little while now, and it's really fun because I have two games kind of at the outside spectrum. In here is a game that is in the zeitgeist. It is published. It has not been forgotten yet, and I'm kind of poking out on both sides because we'll start with this one over here that pokes through the published side to the it is not published yet, and I'm going to start with Old King's Crown, published by Eerie Idle Games. So this, if you've been hanging around Give Pause Hobby, you know that I have been deep into this game, and I was honored and lucky enough to get one of the prototypes from the Eerie Idle folks, the second wave that had the solo variant, and I put a lot of time in playing with the solo modes, and working with the team on an archive, because for the archetypes that you can make, because you can customize your solo opponent to a certain degree, and then you play against them. And for a game that's largely bluffing based, it is remarkable at how good of a job Ricky Royal's solo mod does for this game. That should come as no surprise, because Ricky Royal is, solo game royalty, and rightly so. And this is absolutely, the game is not published yet, but I would say even still, this already is at the top of the list of just towering accomplishments that he has contributed to the solo board game community, to say this is a tremendous designer of solo modes. And so I put in a lot of work on coming up with a way for the players to share their archetypes, the archetype archive as it was, and still ongoing because the game is still under development. So I'm trying to stay nimble. I got an early model out. The link will be down below, because up on BGG, and will be updated as I get new archetypes from folks. There's a submission form that I will make super easy for people to use once the game is public. It is still being played quite a bit on Tabletop Simulator, so I'm getting lots of feedback from those who are playing the game a lot, even though there are very few of us who have a physical copy on our table. And even those who have it now no longer have the most up-to-date one. So it's a really fun environment to work in, but that's neither here nor there, because the reason this is on my Hall of Fame entry for the year is because I genuinely can't remember the last time I have fallen so deeply in love with the world of a game. And it's the care that has been put into this game, the artwork that Pablo has put into this game is second to none. The amount of detail, the world building into every piece of clothing, every angle of every shot, the lighting, the characters, the names, the flavor text, it just is incredibly evocative. And to be honest, even as someone who is in communication with Pablo and the Eerie Idle folks a good amount leading up to the Kickstarter, and since, when they released what's coming out in the expansion, like the other modules that you can put into the game, it was mind-blowing once again. It was this world that already exploded my brain with how beautiful and how rich it and like deep it seemed. Even on this first game from this publisher, this first game in this world, it just seemed like it has existed for millennia that it's been something in my kind of like just world of fictional worlds, and yet it hasn't. It's brand new. And then when they came out with the expansion materials of what else you can add to the world, it was once again they kept those cards close to their chest, because for the most part I had no idea what was in store. And there are discussions right now in the Discord. I don't know what will come of them, but potential other factions or other things that could come down the road in further expansions. Because if you didn't see it, the Kickstarter, I'm showing you a picture right now, was tremendously successful. Just huge success. And I think even established companies would say that going into a Kickstarter is always a scary thing, because they hope that they didn't put all their eggs into a basket that no one cares about. And I could kind of sense a little bit of that. I mean, it's a first-time publisher with a project that has been years in production, and just, I mean, at this point, probably nearing, if not past, years of just artwork alone. And it did fantastic. But you know, the market success of the game, it honestly, it could have failed. The Kickstarter could have failed, and this game would still be on my list, because what I have gotten out of the game, playing the solo modes and really kicking the tires and finding out what that system can do, but also introducing it to my friends, to my wife, to show them how devious that you can be when you're vying for control of these parts of the kingdom and these different factions, and going through that kingdom deck to see what's out there to be, you know, wielded against other people. It's incredible, and it immediately rocketed up to the very top, like, peaks of my favorite games of all time almost immediately. So when I was, you know, well before I'd even started clicking together thoughts about my Hall of Fame of the Year, I knew Old King Crown was going to be on it. So Eerie Idle Games just absolutely knocked it out of the park. I cannot say enough good things about this game. I would play it at the drop of a hat whenever anyone would want to. And anyone who knows me, who's around me in meat space, just let me know if you want to play, because I'm always up for a game of Old King's Crown. So that's obviously, that's the one over here. Poked through the publishing, the veil of publishing. Now, the veil of forgottenness. And I poked through it this way because the other game of the year, or the entry to my Hall of Fame, is not Magic the Gathering's Jumpstart, per se. Jumpstart was introduced in 2020 as a product Wizards of the Coast came out with, where you take 2 boosters. In each booster there's one theme. It's 20 cards, typically 8 lands and 12 non-lands that have a theme. So it could be Phyrexian, or knights, or cats, or vehicles, or some seismic. Some of them make sense. You're like, oh, angels, I bet that's going to have angels in it. Or Garrick, I bet is going to have that planeswalker. And you know, if you just look at the name of the theme, you'll know the name of it. You'll see the picture of one of the cards in it, and you'll know the color or colors. There are a couple that are multicolored. And then you open 2 of them and you shuffle them together, and you make a 40 card deck, which is the standard, like, limited deck size for those who haven't played Magic or haven't really done much limited Magic. It's not the 60 card standard deck, and it's definitely not a 100 card commander deck, though most of the themes are singleton, so there's only 1 copy of each card. So you could, I guess, put 5 of them together and make just like a commander deck of some sort. I don't know if I would recommend it, but anyways, so Jumpstart was introduced in 2020, and I'm going to go into lots more detail in a future video about this. I'm actually going to kind of rein this in, and I'm going to focus on what project Jumpstart is. I'm not going to bore you with Jumpstart. All I will say is I honestly don't know what the future of Jumpstart officially. There's been 2 big releases in 2020 and 2022, and then there have been some set releases. Like there is the Lord of the Rings, and there is March of the Machines and Brothers War. For a while, that was kind of like seemed like a new standard of a way for Wizards to say, hey, if you want to try out this new set and you want to guarantee to have an opportunity to play this, color or like this mechanic, we have these boosters, these Jumpstart boosters, and then you put 2 together and boom, you're off to the races. Because if you just open random boosters, if anyone's played in the limited format, you know that you could go in and say, oh, I really want to try out insert mechanic or theme here because I've been really interested in it, and the cards just completely might not be in your favor. So Project Jumpstart, and again, I will have a longer, just like slower burn, absolute like geek fest of how I've made this, is my passion project. I've long since realized at this point I am going on over 80 hours of work to put this thing together. And so I've kind of come to the realization that this is a train table for me that I can. It's getting harder to carry around the whole thing in a bag, to be honest, but I, in theory, can carry it in a bag and go play with other people with it, because it's just something I've enjoyed thinking through, creating this thing and actually putting it together. So I had to do some work to make these cards unshuffled, because they are standard, like they're legal cards in Magic. So there's nothing, say, like in Smash Up, where you have the little logo of like ninjas or aliens or whatever. So when you're done with the game, it's really obvious of which cards go into which deck. And any other card or deck game that's like that, there's a simple mechanism for that. There is not in Jumpstart. So I had to make these tiny little labels, and meticulously kind of find a way to organize them in the box. So there are ways that I can draft them or create like a little pool for each player to choose maybe 3 themes, and they choose 2 to shuffle together. Or to come up with all these different ways to, whether more or less randomly, put together Jumpstart decks and play. And it's fantastic. It's so good. And this is coming from me as a lapsed Magic player from 2005 to 2009. I was playing quite a bit. Casual Magic, sometimes like a Friday night or a pre-release, but pretty much casual Magic, mostly multiplayer, which is hilarious because Commander is like a almost multiplayer exclusive format, which back when we were playing multiplayer with just regular standard decks, it was like the weird way to play Magic. Back then, everyone was playing Type 2 or, their casual, whatever their friends want to do, but 60 card standard decks and duels. And so when we were playing 3-player or 4-player non-2-headed giant, or 5-player star, or 6-player general, or whatever it may be, it was definitely not the mainstream way to play Magic, but it was the mainstream way that my friends and I played Magic. But Jumpstart has, I've been sometimes more aware, sometimes less aware. I've been chasing that high of what Magic is as a game, like what it's able to do and what it's able to feel like for years. And some games have come closer than others, but there's never been a game that's fully gotten there for me. And so Project Jumpstart, again, I'll save the rest for the video. For right now, I'll just say it has allowed me to not only return to Magic in a way that is under control, that I'm not just suddenly, bringing in tons and tons of cards, constantly thinking about deck lists and tweaking them like I was back when I was playing it seriously, casually seriously. And but also it allows me to reintroduce my friends who are also lapsed Magic players, but it's also a fantastic vehicle for me to introduce it to people who've never played, because I think Magic is a scary, at this point, to just like say, oh, here's a Commander deck, or even here's a standard 60 card deck. It is a daunting game to get into. And I have never been more aware than when playing and making this Project Jumpstart, when I've been compiling mechanics, like describing the mechanics of all the cards, all the mechanics that are on the cards in my boxes, I have on my rule sheet. So when we're playing, most of the time I know exactly what they do. But if there's any confusion, and sometimes I have to go to it and say, oh, actually this works in a different way. But there's just this sea of rules and mechanisms, and so much of it I completely take for granted, so that I'm able to grok a card that is like a block of text and keywords on top of that, because I've just kind of grown up in that system, and so I know a lot of it, but also my brain has been programmed to learn those cards. So it's not easy. But through Jumpstart and Project Jumpstart, it is easier, and it has been just a wonderful boon to get back into this game that I loved to a problematic level back then, and to be able to put that love into, again, like this train table type like project, this long form creation that I then get to take off the shelf and show people, and they go, you did what? And you added more themes, or you did the Lord of the Rings one, which is awesome. That's gonna be another video too. But it's just incredible. And so on one hand, I poked the veil of things that are published, and on the other hand, I poked the veil on things that are forgotten, because by and large, Jumpstart is a product that I think is on the way out, if it's not already out of Wizards like purview. But I think it's fantastic, and I know there are other people out there who think it's great too for their own reasons, but yeah, it's definitely on the Hall of Fame for me because I played it a ton. So that leads to our two runner-ups for the year. I'm gonna try my best not to take forever, because I thought I was gonna be able to make this a shorter video, and here we are. Give Pause Hobby is back up and running, and so is my mouth. So the first runner-up for the year is John Company, JoCo 2.0. This is a game I got last year, and I got a great deal. I mean, like, not a great deal, but like a comparable, like at, or maybe like even slightly just under what I could have got on crowdfunding, just randomly on this amazing deal with the great coins. It's a game that I've been interested in, but I'd never played. So I bought it, not sight unseen, but play unplayed. Looking back, I never really understood how much of a sandbox Pax Pamir second edition could be until I was in that sandbox playing it. Again, I bought that game a couple years ago, game unplayed, and was just blown away by what Whirligig was able to make, in terms of just like the most tense, like twisting of your emotions of your friends, but also, again, Ricky Royal, just an incredible solo mode with Wakan, which I've played a number of games and is super, super enjoyable. I think I would be hard pressed to say it's better than the multiplayer game, because to be able to look across the table and look at your friends and family and just either think ways that you are going to absolutely screw them out of the thing they think they're going to get, or the thing you just promised them, or perceive that look being directed at you, is so deliciously devious. There's no way I could say that Wakan absolutely does that. But what it does fantastically. And I didn't learn my lesson. I looked at John Company. I was like, I don't get it. People are talking about this game like it's this this world that opens up. Open up the wardrobe and suddenly you're in Narnia. But it's John Company and the East India Trade Company, and like but it is. I got the game. First of all, the components, again, Whirligig, so it should not be a surprise, and this one wasn't. But I opened up the box, and just from the artwork on the inside of the box to the board to the little portrait, wooden pawns to coins to the every single aspect of the game is just lush, and it has this wonderful. Lots of games I immediately say this toyness factor, but it's not that, because what this one is, it's like that toyness, like tactile enjoyment meets what I've seen only in TV shows or movies, which is like, very prim and proper, people like moving around war pieces like on a table, like they're strategizing from the 10,000 foot level of orders to be sent down to the rabble that make up their armies, trying to figure out the outcome of a war, and in this case the outcome of this economic war in India. And it is so the solo mode is remarkable. Wakan is great at what Wakan does, but in that case I feel like it is a lot of tactics. There is strategy you can play, but it is a lot of, at least how I play it, and maybe I'm just a dum-dum, but I play it very reactionary. I can come up with my plans, but to a certain extent, I need to see what Wakan's going to be doing, and then I'm trying to undo those things. In John Company, there is an amount of that, but there is a lot more of an arc, of a strategic arc, because there are moods that the automa goes through, that the crown goes through, and you can use that against the crown. And sometimes you can anticipate when you're taking advantage of their mood and you're getting more out of them than you would have if they were a different mood. But there's almost always a price that comes with it. And sometimes it's, the whims of the uprisings or things that happen in India. You might think you are doing a great job of leading them by the nose, and then suddenly, boom, something happens and the game switches, and suddenly you're left in the lurch, and it's super duper fun. As a solo game, it is engrossing in the best way. But as a multiplayer game, it is insane. Like the fact that you have all the different companies, the flow chart of who's going to fill positions when people retire, it's so interesting. And it brings out such strange and unforeseen and sometimes scary parts of your friends in ways that, honestly, Pax Pamir doesn't. The Pax Pamir just, in my experience, just makes people angry with each other. But John Company makes people, like, evil. and like dastardly in a way that you can almost foresee ways that they're going to be some of those things in Pax Pamir, but in John Company you're just like, how are you doing that? And just like the underhandedness of the deals that you can be making, chef's kiss. That said, I started off the year actually with a number of games of this, and if you've played it, you know that some of those games are not short, but it hasn't continued to hit the table in the ways that other games have. So I honestly thought earlier in the year, when I was finally coming out with the first Hall of Fame videos, I thought John Company was a shoo-in on the Hall of Fame inductees for the year, but that was before I got my prototype for Old King's Crown. I had only played on Tabletop Simulator, which is great, but I'm bad at TTS, and I hadn't even started Project Jumpstart, so totally blindsided me, and so that's why that one's not on the list. But my goodness, just a fantastic game, and I love it so much. The other one is also a bit of a surprise, because Keyforge, for years now, as soon as Project Jumpstart came about, the brain just switched. So Keyforge is great, and it's not like I sold off Keyforge to fund Project Jumpstart in any way. And I'm happy to play that game. And for some people, that would be a better avenue than Magic. And I pride myself that I've gotten better at recognizing as a game sommelier over the years that you know, that truism that, you know, game can be just an absolute darling to me, but not the right game for somebody else. And yeah, so I have both of them. They both have a place in my collection, but that one's not on my Hall of Fame. So I thought this was going to actually be shorter than last time. I looked at the play length of the 2022 Hall of Fame, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be under that for sure. I am not. So if you made it this far, thanks so much for you know, listening to me yammer on. I don't know, the two week interval of release I think is great for my mental headspace. Might not be the greatest for play length on the videos because I just have so much I want to share with you folks that it's gonna maybe result in it further being like enshrined as Give Pause videos are long. But in any case, I hope you've had a wonderful 2023 filled with playing your favorite games, new, old, new to you, resurgence, rediscoveries of games. And if Give Pause Hobby was any part of your year, I'm really glad. I'm grateful that you came to watch. And if it introduced something new to you, all the better. So with that, as always, and I'm happy to say for the first time in a few weeks, thanks for taking a pause with Give Pause, and we'll see you next time. On an on and off again basis has been one of those games that has attempted to scratch the itch that Magic used to. And I think there's a lot of things that Keyforge does really well. It is a really intriguing system that each deck is just done. When you open up a deck of Keyforge, there's no deck building to be, well, now new gameplay modes through Ghost Galaxy, they've opened up some of that, but typically your deck is, you open it and that is the deck now and forever. And from what houses are included, those 3 houses, to the makeup of those houses, maybe there's a card in there, you're like, wow, this would be fantastic if there was this other card, and there isn't. And there's nothing you can do about it. In Magic, the thing you say, oh, okay, I'll go buy it. Or if I have it, I just, whoop, I put it in the deck. I don't even need to replace something. I can just make a 61 card deck. Who cares? But in Keyforge, it's just done. The deck is what it is. That's interesting. It's also interesting, there's no mana. There's no lands. There's no like energy or you know, economy to pay with your cards with. You just get to play with whatever. So your cards can be absolutely broken in terms of like, oh, I can play all of these cards, with the one exception being they have to be from one house. You choose one of the 3 houses and you can with only that house, you can play those cards, you can discard those cards, and you can activate those creatures or artifacts or things you have on the board of that one house. There are ways to get around that rule, obviously. That's the kind of the key of and then the last thing is that you're not necessarily, the win condition is not fist meet face. And that was the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around as a previously, you know, as a lapsed Magic player, because at the end of the day, no matter what your deck was, unless you were playing like a mill deck or something, which I have, or a poison counter deck, I guess you could be doing that too, or some other alternate win condition, like standard Magic, no matter what color or color combination you're playing, your win condition is 20 points or more damage to your opponent's face. So over, through, or around their creatures, just boom, 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 until your opponent is down. And that it was just like, it's like explaining to the concept of water to a fish. Like, of course, I just need to be sending damage down range, because if I don't, I could have the coolest board with the coolest stuff. I've made decks like this where you're like, wow, look at all the things I can do. And yet the other person has made a deck that just does more damage to me. Womp, womp. And in Keyforge, that's actually completely not the goal of the game. The goal of the game is to forge your 3 keys, which require 6 like amber pips each. And on the start of your turn, if you have 6 or more amber, you can forge a key. And then you spend those 6 amber. If you have, you know, I think you can do multiples. Actually, I don't know. I haven't played it, and that leads me to why this is only a runner-up. This game, I really started playing it last year because I found out that not only was Ghost Galaxy, well, incorporating and then kind of restarting Keyforge, but I found out there are solo modes, and solo modes was the thing that got me so interested in Hearthstone back in the day, because I was like, ooh, Magic, but also a solo opportunity? What even? And there are those in Keyforge, and they're actually really, really fun. I really enjoy them quite a bit. But that, so let me back up. Like I said, this is on again, off again. I was like, wow, this is the game that is going to get me that fix, that magic fix, but it's going to remove the like toxic deck building, like that's constantly running in the back of my head, because you can't. There just isn't that option. It's also just like plop down a deck in front of your friends and be like, this deck kind of does this. It has these creatures. Look out for this combo. Let's play. Don't need to worry about mana flood or mana screw or just like whatever. And it's like, let's play some Keyforge. And to a certain extent, it has been that. And in this past year, it's been even, or past like year and a half, 2 years, it's been even more than that, because the solo modes are really fun. And back when the one and only time I had COVID, not this September, but the previous one, I played so much of the Key Racken solo game. And that was like a daily occurrence, like multiple games, and I just going through all the decks that I have, because the environment that I'm in now for Keyforge is back up and running. Like Ghost Galaxy is talking about their next set. Keys of or Winds of Exchange has been sent out, so there is new Keyforge. That new Keyforge arrived at our doorstep this past year. So I have some new decks, I have a new solo mode, all this sort of stuff. And the solo modes, those exist. Those are things that I can play too. And last but not least, past sets of Keyforge have been out in the world long enough that now there are a bunch that are cheap. So I have a little sizable collection of Keyforge decks, and yet